Chris, and in this video we're going to take a look at natural selection, one of the most popular topics covered in biology. So when we think about natural selection, we oftentimes hear it associated with Darwin, or maybe we hear the phrase survival of the fittest. And let's talk about exactly what that means. So sometimes due to various kinds of environmental pressures, certain traits are favored over others in terms of survival. And one of the most common examples of natural selection discussed is something that took place during the Industrial Revolution in England with the peppered moth. So I excuse my artwork here, but this is my attempt at drawing two moths side by side on a background that could be maybe a tree or even the side of a building or something like that. And we see that it has the light coloring. So if you were to look as a predator, which of these moths do you think would be easier to spot? So on this light colored background, we had the light coloring and the darker coloring for these peppered moths. And the darker coloring was much easier to spot. So the moths that are on the tree have birds nearby that are birds that eat moths, and they would notice the peppered moth with the darker coloring, and they would eat these organisms. So the peppered moths with the lighter coloring would survive, and that's the trait that would get passed down. So prior to the Industrial Revolution, lots and lots and lots of peppered moths with the light coloring, relatively few with the darker coloring. Now let's take a look at what happens during the Industrial Revolution. The air quality in England at the time was decreasing. It wasn't very good air quality, and a lot of soot began to cover buildings and kill trees and turn the trunks of trees darker in coloring as well. And so as I color this in, hopefully we see that now, over time, as soot-covered environments changed, then we see that the survival opportunity for each kind of moth changed as well. The moths with the lighter coloring were much easier to spot now. The moths with the darker coloring were much better camouflaged. And so what we then saw was that birds would eat the moths with the lighter coloring because those were the ones easier to spot. The moths with the darker coloring blended in and were able to stay hidden and survived. Thus, this was the trait that now got passed on from generation to generation. And over time, we saw a switch in the numbers. There became many more plentiful peppered moths with the darker coloring and fewer with the lighter coloring. And that's the process of natural selection. Natural selection, or survival of the fittest, means whatever trait allows you the better chance to survive and then be able to reproduce, that's the trait that's going to get passed down genetically from generation to generation. For more, please visit sandersontestprep.com, and you can watch more of our biology lessons on STP TV. Thanks for watching.